Support for Consider This is provided by the University of Nebraska at Omaha College of Communication, Fine Arts, and Media.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
Le Fantôme de l'Opéra was the most famous novel written by Gaston Leroux. Born in France in 1868, he wrote in a variety of genres, but was best known for his detective stories. The Phantom of the Opera was first published in 1911, but its lasting fame is due to the various adaptations of the novel. In 1922, Carl Laemmle, head of Universal Pictures, met Leroux in Paris and told the novelist how impressed he had been by the Paris Opera House designed by Charles Garnier in 1860. Leroux handed him a copy of his novel. Laemmle stayed up all night reading it and decided to film it. A replica opera house was constructed at Universal City in Los Angeles, and Lon Chaney was brought in to create his most famous role. This silent 1925 film was the first of 10 filmed versions. Other phantoms being created by Claude Rains in 1943, Herbert Lom in a Hammer horror version in 1962, Maximilian Schell in a television version in 1983, and another.
And then what? Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, the Phantom of the Opera. Joining us to talk more about it are Kendra Whitlock Ingram, Vice President of Programming and Education for Omaha Performing Arts, and Katie Travis. Katie plays the role of Christine Daae. A very sincere thanks to the two of you for being here, and welcome. Welcome to Omaha.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You bet. Kendra, we're going to start with you. Let's go with where that video left off, 1983.
Right.
What happened with the Phantom of the Opera after that?
So we know that Cameron Mackintosh, the producer of the show, and famous musical composer Andrew Lloyd Webber then created the stage version that premiered in London, 1986. In 1988, the show came to Broadway and is one of the longest running shows on Broadway since. So a great tradition of this show, spectacular new production as we know, and we're so excited to have it in Omaha.
Katie, like so many other things, this show morphs and evolves. Talk to us about that from your perspective.
Yeah, so it's amazing that for almost 30 years this show has been consistently running and people just adore it and love it. But we've taken a new stance for the first time at this beautiful story that everyone knows and loves, and we've just tried to simplify it and make it a little bit more realistic, so that it's more about a young woman trying to figure out the direction of her life, trying to cope with the death of her father, trying to figure out the kind of relationship she wants to be in and where her career is going. And so it's, she makes choices, and some of them go well and some of them do not go so well. And in the meantime, there's beautiful music and incredible visuals, pyrotechnics, amazing set design. So, there's really something for everyone in the production that we've now taken on as our own. And Lawrence Connor is our director, and he has taken that direction to really try to simplify the story that everyone has loved for so many years.
So I have to ask, how were you introduced to Phantom?
So Phantom was the first show that I saw. I was 4, and my parents took a special trip to Toronto, I'm from Michigan, to go see it. And it was very cool because Colm Wilkinson was my first Phantom, and he came to our show in Toronto, which was super special. So it was the show that really inspired me to want to be a storyteller and an actress, and it's been a crazy road getting here, but in a lot of working restaurants and nannying and temping and auditioning a lot, and but I'm here and I'm sharing this story that was the first thing that really sparked my interest in being an actress. So it's pretty amazing.
Well, amazing would be the word to describe this whole production. But I do have to ask, when you were sitting in the audience, way back in the day, watching this, what was going through your mind and even in your heart? This is a pretty big production.
Sure. So it's hard to remember exactly when I was 4, but I will say, you know, I think I have an older brother who's also a musician, and we both left the show just, you know, singing the music and acting out the scenes, and he would pretend to be the managers with the notes, and I would pretend to be Meg and Christine and be kissing Rel, and, you know, so like I think that there's facets of the story that people take, and there's components of the music also that just stick with people in a really beautiful way. And but you know, like I said, there's also, for some people, there's the fire and there's the spectacle and there's the fights, and so that's a draw for some people as well. So I think for me as a kid, it was the music and major components of the story that I was really drawn to. But you know, I do the show every day, and I've seen the show many, many times. And as I have grown older and into an adult, there's different components that I take of it now, which is cool. And I get to live in this story every day and take new things from Christine and from these people that are really real. Although there's a phantom chasing people under an opera house in a mask, and it's kind of crazy, but it is a real story of people trying to do the best they can and trying to feel love and compassion.
Okay. You talked a little bit about your journey here, but I want to go a bit more in depth, especially for those viewers who are saying, yeah, we want to know, like, what was her first production and what types of roles does she really like to play? I mean, you don't just get here, right?
No,
there is quite the journey. So when were you first on stage? Do you recall, and what were you doing?
So I was lucky. I'm from a reasonably small town in Michigan, and so I was able to cultivate a lot of my artistic draw and passion in singing at my church, cantoring at church, and then also in church choir and in community theater. And there were a few directors who really took on a lot of these kids who wanted a place to perform and allowed them to do that and gave them a space to grow and learn, and I would never be here without that, for sure. And then I continued. I did a lot of shows in high school. My very first show was I was Gretel in The Sound of Music when I was 5, but I did a lot of shows growing up, and I studied opera in school. I was a vocal performance major, and then I studied abroad for a little while. I lived in Florence, and so I've had amazing opportunities because I've had parents and because I've had teachers who have cultivated that and believed that it was possible, even if it seemed like an impossible feat. And then I moved to New York and worked really hard. I worked at a lot of small opera companies and worked a lot of regional theater jobs, and trained with some of the best teachers and teachers who gave me free lessons because I couldn't afford it, because I was temping and nannying and restauranting, and after years of auditioning for Phantom and probably about 10 goes at going to open calls and then finally getting an agent and then getting appointments, and that's been sort of my journey, and taking class with casting people, and it wasn't really something that was just kind of handed on a silver platter. It was certainly something that was a lot of work to get to, and so that's why I certainly don't take it for granted, and I'm just feel so grateful and lucky to be able to be doing the show every day.
So I want to go back 10 calls, did you say?
Yeah, so I moved to New York and I was non-equity. Without going into too much detail, I was not a member of the Actors Union, so I would go to open calls and just wait all day and hope to get seen, and I would go early in the morning, and sometimes you don't get seen because they have to see all the union people first, and so I really worked my way to get here, and I did that many times, and then I finally I was able to sign on with an agency who was able to get me appointments, and then I was always kind of in final callbacks and around, and I was sort of a person that was in their pool of people, but the timing wasn't right until it was, and then I got the job until I was ready, and my skill set was ready, and they were ready to cast me, so that was that.
So when you had those times of disappointment, which we all have, regardless of what career we're pursuing, what kept you going, Katie, especially in this industry, right? So
yeah, I think someone told me a long time ago, they just said that if you have something in your life that feels like a light that you need to go towards, then even when it's hard and even when it seems impossible, that you should really, really try to keep going towards that, because that's what makes the world turn, right? Is like making us all do what we do best, whether it's being a mother or an actress or a lawyer or whatever, and that's how the world rotates, right? That's how we work, and or someone janitor or a hairdresser or whatever it may be, you know, and like that's, I do believe that even when it's hard, because it has been, and you know, I think it's worth it when it happens.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how surreal it must feel sometimes for you to be in front of so many different audiences, going to so many different places, to get off stage and think, wow, I'm here, I'm playing this role in this production of Christine Daae. That's the lead role, right?
Yeah.
And your journey that gets you here.
Yeah.
Talk about those moments when that curtain closes, right? And you're standing there thinking, oh my gosh.
Sure. I mean, so, you know, there are days where, because you're a human and you're doing this like superhuman job. So you're in front of thousands of people and you're singing the extremes of your vocal range, and you're running around and doing all these things backstage, wearing these dresses that are 35 pounds and running in them. And these are all things that you try to seem like it's not hard, but it sometimes is hard, because you're a human, and some days you're like, this is, I don't know, this is harder than other days, right? But, you know, there are major times in the past year and a half that I've been doing this show that I've just thought, I still feels like a dream.
Yeah, and here you are in Omaha, North American
Talking
tour.
about the show, starting to cry. It's great. It's really, really great. Yeah.
Part of this North American tour. First impressions of the city, Kate.
So I got here yesterday. Please excuse my teary eyes, still talking about the show.
That's great.
I got here yesterday, and my friend called and said, Mumford & Sons is playing tonight. Do you want to go? And I said, yeah, but I'm going to have to, like, I can't talk, like, during a loud concert like this, right? Because I have this run of the show. So we went and saw Mumford & Sons, but I texted my friends. I didn't speak. I just, like, drank water and texted them as we were at the concert. But, you know, it was cool, actually, to hear Mumford & Sons talk about the musical legacy that's here in Omaha, and how many amazing bands and musical groups have started here and have performed here. And so that was my first taste of Omaha. I got here and went to see Mumford & Sons, and that was pretty cool. Yeah.
So Kendra, in the spirit of first impressions, right? For people like Katie who walk into that Orpheum Theater, and we have some photographs we'll put up while you're talking. Talk about the first impressions there.
Well, you know, we are so fortunate. Omaha Performing Arts manages the Orpheum Theater, and we're the stewards of this building. So we've spent $18 million over the last 10 years maintaining the historic nature of the venue, and also upgrading a lot of the technical aspects. So the first impressions that we usually hear from artists who arrive to perform in the Orpheum is, wow, it's spectacular, it's beautiful. And then we hear from the technical crews saying, wow, we love your brand new rigging and sound systems that we just invested in over the last few years. So because of these investments, we're able to bring massive productions like Phantom to Omaha. And I was watching the load-in yesterday. It is truly spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, I see a lot of shows, and I see a lot of shows come and go in the building, and this set and production is really
and to say
phenomenal.
For just a second, our crew, I mean, so we finished our last show on Sunday. It's and for 3 days straight, they essentially load out and load in, and they're very little sleep, but they work so hard to make the show look amazing. And it really is the best crew that we could possibly have, and it's just incredible. And also, to add on, I think it's one of the most amazing things about being on tour is just seeing incredible theaters like the Orpheum, and seeing that people are investing money into theaters like this to have stories be told, you know, and to share live theater with people, and it's still a thriving art, and that's exciting.
Yes, and to preserve the history of the venue. I mean, that's really one of our mission points for Omaha Performing Arts, is to preserve this venue. So there really is no better venue than the Orpheum for Phantom of the Opera.
Well, let's take our viewers backstage with a gentleman named Corey. You've been kind of leading us up to this. Thank you very much. So let's let our viewers see what this is all about.
I love that.
The touring carpenters move all the scenic elements for this tour, whether it be rigging, drops, any of the set pieces. The scene shops construct everything for us and then show us how to troop the pieces, and we instruct local carpenters how to assemble those items. The show travels in 20 trailers complete. Our load-in process is 3 days long. We hire between 75 and 90 stagehands depending upon the market and what the individual challenges are, whether they be carpenters, riggers, electricians, soundmen. Surveying the markets involves verifying dimensions, making sure their loading docks are large enough, the doors are big enough, that there's enough structure overhead for us to hang the chandelier. The chandelier weighs about 2,000 pounds roughly. There's a winch truss above it that weighs another 2,000 pounds. There's pyro and lighting effects inside the chandelier. I think it is a darker take on the story. Lighting-wise, it's a lot darker also. The production utilizes roughly 85 moving lights. The main scenic element for the show are 2 large walls that track in a circle around the center of the stage. The 2 together weigh about 10,000 pounds total. Some of the other large set pieces we have in the tour are the 2 opera boxes, which are 24 feet long individually and 8.5 feet wide. One of my favorite things about touring is being able to travel all over the country and check out the culture and find a new local brewery or restaurant.
I heard 10,000 pounds. It's pretty overwhelming to think about.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Katie, what are some of the changes? We're hearing that this is a new production, right?
Yeah.
So as we're watching that, set that stage for us in terms of, for those of us who've seen this show before,
Sure.
what are we going to expect that's going to be different this time?
Sure. So it's hard to believe we're in 2016, right? But we're in the year 2016, and so we're using technology that we have available to us, and especially with the pyrotechnics and with the dropping of the chandelier. Not to give it all away, but it's new and it's exciting, and we're using this new technology that we can to make it more vibrant. The set design is more vibrant. It's new in that way. The costumes are the same. The music is the same, and the stage direction is just, as I mentioned before, just a little bit more realistic and simple, and just trying to tell the story of these real people struggling with major life difficulties, also being chased by a masked man in the basement of the Paris Opera House. So there's components of a fictional story, but there's also these real people that are struggling within that. So
yeah, all supporting that storyline. And so when people come up to you and they say, "Hey, Katie, tell me about the Phantom of the Opera,"
yeah,
kind of that elevator speech that we all learned back in the day. What do you tell them that really does sum this up, but does it justice all at the same time, right?
Sure, because it's a complicated story, and to try and one time I tried to tell my cab driver who didn't speak very good English the story, and I was like, this is too complicated to go into all the details. But I think the main gist is showing compassion for people who feel neglected or left out in this life, and I think the punchline of the story is that she's the first person to show this person compassion who is alone and struggling. And he does things to try and get attention, but he's a talented musician and a talented person who just wants to feel loved. And I think that's the kicker that we can all relate to and agree with, that it showing compassion and having it given to us is amazing and feels great.
So tell us about the gentleman who plays the Phantom of
our Chris Mann. Chris Mann is the man.
I love Chris Mann.
He's my dear friend, and we've grown to be good friends for the past year and a half, and he's an incredible musician and artist and very talented as a singer and an actor, and has his own album, many albums, and I mean he's just a talented person and a really good person.
Which brings up another thing that we all run into, again, regardless of where we are in our lives, and that is, establishing relationships, cultivating relationships, in your case, on stage and so forth, and then you have to leave.
Yeah.
Then you have to say goodbye.
This is true.
After all that time, and this is team building, right,
yes.
to the hilt.
Right. Yes.
So you come in, you do this great job, and then
this is our family. This is our true family, for sure.
So at some point, you're probably dreading all of that when you're in a run like this. It's like, oh, we have how many more shows left, and then we're done.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Huh. You deal with that okay?
Okay enough. I mean, okay enough.
What choice do you have?
All right.
I want to talk favorites for a minute.
Sure.
Okay, especially when it comes to the Phantom of the Opera. Favorite scene?
The Manager's 2 scene, this is so random, but the Manager's 2 scene where Christine says, I'm not going to do the show, and it's in the second act, and if you see the show, you'll know what I'm talking about. But the Manager's 2 scene, for sure.
Okay. Favorite song?
Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again.
And wow, that was very quick.
Yeah.
And why?
I think it's a crazy pivotal moment for this young woman who decides that she's no longer going to hold on to this weight and this baggage of her past, and she's going to try and move forward towards whatever her dreams may be. And come on, like, we can all relate to that, right? Like,
okay.
yeah.
Favorite character?
Madame Giry.
And why?
She's smart and wise, and she's the one who knows all the secrets, and she's the one you want to, like, ask life advice to.
Okay. One of the things we really haven't talked a whole lot about is this cast. How many folks?
37.
Yeah, so we'll see a lot of you and your cohort, right?
Yeah.
But we see other people kind of coming and going, you know, the big chorus, so to speak.
You also don't see all the swings, the people that cover for things, the people that make this show happen, the people that are on call to play things if people get sick or if, you know, for whatever reason someone isn't on. So it's once again the way the world turns in our little show, for sure.
She represents this industry really well.
Yes, she does.
I know it's
she
all,
does.
you know, it's all for a reason. But in any event, all right. So I think maybe viewers are going to want to know, Katie, what is next for you? What do you see 5 years, 10 years? Okay, maybe just a year down the road. What's next?
So, you know, first of all, I'm going to do the show tonight, and that's the next step, I suppose. After Omaha is exciting. I'm taking a trip to Kenya, and I work with a non-for-profit called the Real Global Poets, and we do a poetry exchange between students in the U.S. and refugees in Kenya, and so we're doing some work there, and then I will be there for a week, and then I go back and play Christine Daae in Indianapolis, and then I will continue my run with the show, and then go back to New York and be open to what comes in life, I suppose.
Most exciting place you've been because of this journey that you're on so far?
I mean, so there are exciting places like, you know, LA and San Francisco and these amazing cities that you expect to be exciting. I love a good surprise city. Like, I love a city like Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Charlotte, or I've heard Omaha. People have been like, Katie, it's going to be a surprise city. But I love these cities that you see on your list and you're like, okay, you know, I will go there. But they just like throw you these curveballs that are amazing, and the people are amazing, and the food is great, or the art is great, or Pittsburgh was another one I loved and didn't expect, you know? So I love just the, like, maybe a good underdog, I guess I would say, like, just like, yeah, I didn't expect this, and this is awesome, you know?
Okay. Another question for you.
Yeah.
So for all of those folks, maybe the younger adults, maybe the teenagers aspiring to someday be in New York,
sure,
right?
Sure.
What's your advice to them?
I would say to find good teachers is really, really important, because those are the people that will be with you when it's not easy, and those are the people that will cultivate your talent as you're going through it, because no one can do it on natural ability alone. You have to cultivate things, and you have to work hard to make things happen. And so working hard for sure. I also think having good friends and being a good colleague and being a good person and traveling and living life, because you can't be a good actor if you don't know how to live, and if you've never kissed a boy, and if you've never, you know, I don't know, gone skydiving or something. Maybe you could probably be a good actor if you've never gone skydiving. But I think my point is you have to live in order to be better at what you do, and but you also have to work hard and find good teachers and just keep going, because it's worth it when it's amazing, and when you're able to share things that you really love with people.
Thank you. Kendra, 30 seconds. What's next for the Orpheum Theater?
Well, we're in Phantom all day, all the time. So tickets are still available for the show. And in addition to the show, we also do a lot of education activity with the actors. So we have a master class coming up within the next week with members of the cast to teach the next generation of musical theater stars.
Wow,
so
very
that's what's next for us.
Awesome. Okay, I want to put up a graphic so that if people are wanting more information, of course today we're talking about the Phantom of the Opera. There it is, brought to us here by Omaha Performing Arts. And this runs April 20th through May 1st, again at the Orpheum Theater. And that website is omahaperformingarts.org. Katie, Kendra, I want to thank the two of you for being here. I want to wish you well with this production. You've painted a great picture. We're so excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thrilled to be here.
And for our viewers, we're going to leave you with a little music of the night.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or email us at considerthis@tvmail.unomaha.edu.